Happy Monday. Today we have a new Batman update straight from Ben Affleck himself. Also, we've got a brand new clip from Toy Story 4. Is this an improvement on the Super Bowl spot? And then on top of that, the long shot new trailer with Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron. They make quite the pair. I know a certain someone on this desk has a lot of feelings about that one. We're going to get into it right now. I got to introduce these two guys. We got Rocha and Dennis. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this day that really the office is closed.
Yes.
But we're here working. No, that's a big fat lie. We have pre-taped this episode. So if and when maybe the Academy announces that they're going to backpedal on the announcement to air 4 categories during the commercial, we find out they're not doing it anymore. Don't worry. The only reason we're not covering it on this show is because this show is being taped on Friday, but we wanted to bring you some movie news on Monday. So here we are. We've got a lot to go through today, and we're going to kick it off with that Batman update for you. So basically, after all of the rumors of Ben Affleck stepping away from the role, we recently got the confirmation that yes, it is indeed true. Matt Reeves' movies are going to be with a younger Batman, and now finally we have Ben Affleck himself chiming in on this. He appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and said, you know, I tried to direct a version of it and worked with a really good screenwriter, but just kind of couldn't come up with a version, couldn't crack it. So I thought it was time to let someone else take a shot at it, and they got some really good people. So of course he stepped away from directing, Matt Reeves stepped in, and now we know that Matt Reeves has to be looking out and about right now to cast a new Batman. So let's just jump right into this. Rocha, what do you make of the whole way that we found out about this exit?
Well, this has been a long time coming, and I said months ago that they were going to find some way to do this in a way that was PR based, in a way that was everybody saved face, everybody was able to move on. I thought it was a bit clumsy, though, at the end here a few days ago when it was very clear from Matt Reeves and everybody else that Ben was going to be moved out of being Batman. So him going on Jimmy Kimmel, making fun of it, retiring the cowl, but then also being honest and talking about the fact that he wanted to direct a version of this, couldn't crack it. Who else told us they couldn't crack something? Joss Whedon for Batgirl. You hear these things, so you go, oh, couldn't crack it is now the new, they didn't want me to do it anyway kind of phrase. So it's
or creative differences.
Yeah, creative differences or dehydration. I love that one in Hollywood. But like, yeah, you hear this and you're just like, okay, I'm glad we're finally done. We have an answer. Ben has owned up to it. He's made fun of it. He's made light of it, so he can move on. He's there with Jimmy, who, you know, we were talking off camera. He's friends with Ben and Matt. They go to games together. So this was the right way for Ben to do it. And we're good. We have an answer. Let's all move on. Let's leave Ben alone. Let's let him create new stuff. Remember, he had a career renaissance as a director. I'm curious to see what his next film is going to be. Let's move on from this, and let's let Matt Reeves do his Batman, and let's all move on and hug it out again.
Yeah, I was busy talking to Adam Chitwood from Collider.com about this and just getting his take on the whole thing. And he had suggested that Ben Affleck was basically out long ago, which I do believe as well. I have a feeling that the second that Matt Reeves stepped in, it was basically a changing of the guard at that point, and we just haven't heard about it publicly. And when you really break it down, it makes a lot of sense just from the studio and financial perspective, because I knew, you know, obviously Justice League didn't do as well as one might hoped it would, but the fact that they held the announcement away from that, I think gave it, you know, more potential than it would have had the announcement broke before that movie's release. And then going into Aquaman, that is a huge smash hit, but did anyone really know that it was going to be that big? Yeah, we all thought it was going to make a lot of money, but not as big as it actually went. So I think it was a really smart move on Warner Brothers' part to kind of keep this under wraps and reveal the information now, especially because the tone in the air, to me at least, feels like, all right, we've been talking about this a while. It's a long time coming. I'm ready to move on and meet my new Batman. Yeah. Do you feel that way, Dennis?
Yeah, definitely. Especially you mentioned a good point about the Aquaman stuff. It's like, imagine if Aquaman didn't do well and they're still sitting on this news. It's like, oh my God, now they've bought some goodwill with the fans and just the fact that it's successful and they have the money. So it just feels, so this feels less of like, because if it had come out after, let's say, Aquaman didn't do well, then everyone would be like, oh my God,
It's all
sky, yeah, the
over.
sky is falling and whatnot. And I think we had, obviously we've been talking about this for a long time, but I was on like an episode of Movie Talk. I think I was with Riley and Ellis a few weeks ago, and I think I speculated like maybe he's still there and he does like a little cameo as a flashback, but this basically says no, that's not gonna happen.
I think it's better off if everyone kind of does a clean break. I was really hoping he would get his own movie from the very beginning, and I'm a little sad about that. But at this point, I think we kind of, need to cut the cord, so to speak, and just move on and let whoever is filling this role really get the opportunity to make it his own.
Yeah.
So
I'm still a little upset though, just because, like you said, he never had his own movie.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. That's a little unfortunate, and so is the fact that we don't have a Man of Steel 2 announcement. But that's for another day. I have to ask you a mean question. Rocha got the heads up on this one, but my mean would you rather question is: would you rather see the original Ben Affleck starring and directed Batman movie, or would you rather see Matt Reeves' young Batman movie with a new actor in the role? If you had the choice
If I
right
had a
now.
choice, that's tough because both are good directors. Curiosity wants me to see that Ben Affleck written, directed, and starring one. Like I said, it's unfortunate because I mentioned this, and this was a long time ago when they announced the Batman v Superman. I was like, I like the idea of it. It's too soon. They needed to make a second Man of Steel, and they needed to make a separate Batman movie. Then you make the Batman v Superman. Then you make the Justice League. But they were in such a rush to do everything, and this is kind of a victim of that kind of planning. And now we will never see. Now we'll never go, hey, that was Ben Affleck's version of Batman, because I don't think we've seen Ben Affleck's version of Batman. We saw Zack Snyder's Ben Affleck's starring role, and we saw the Justice League, whatever that Frankenstein monster version of that was, and I don't think we've got to see the fully realized version. So I'm more curious about that.
Rocha, you look really stressed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough decision because I love Matt Reeves in the last two Planet of the Apes movies. I really enjoyed his interpretation of that franchise, and I would love to see what he would do with the young Batman, but I have to say my vote is for Ben Affleck, and for two reasons. One, because I really enjoyed his movies up until that They Live by Night one that didn't quite hit the mark, but everything up to that was really well done. Would have liked to have seen him do that role and write it and direct it with Chris Terrio. And the second reason is this. I love an older Batman exploring the darker edges of his being Batman for so many years. There were allusions to it in BVS when you had A Death in the Family, the Joker stuff. You saw those allusions to it in the film. So you knew they were trying to explore the darker edges of this Batman. So an older Batman. I've seen a young Batman. I've seen a young origin story all over the place with Michael Keaton, with Christian Bale. I've seen it all. I want to see a darker, older Batman and how he would have handled his world like that, and I think Affleck would have been the one to do it. And just that scene alone, where Affleck has the fight scene in the warehouse in BVS, lets you know a small sample of what you would have gotten in an overall film, and that's enough of a trailer to get me excited to see that version.
I have a lot of faith in Matt Reeves, so I am very excited about the movie.
Sure.
But if I had to choose, the thing that I'll point out is if I'm choosing between these two options, I would only pick the Ben Affleck version if it's the Ben Affleck directed version as well.
Yes. Agreed.
Because of what you just said, Dennis. We've never really seen his version. And you could have a wonderful collaboration with a different director. He doesn't have to be the director on the movie. I know that. But the idea of him taking that character and making it completely his own to that extent is just so exciting to me. And now it's disappointing that it's not happening. But Matt Reeves is an incredible talent, and I'm thinking that once we get the casting announcement regarding who's going to fill these shoes now, maybe starting to picture it a little more is going to help get over this a little. But this is where we are right now. We have our clean break. It's time to move on. Keep our fingers crossed that everything progresses in a positive way from here on out.
Oh,
Cavill is next.
you optimist.
You optimist, Perry.
I'll always keep the faith.
Yeah, no controversy whatsoever whenever
Right.
someone gets cast. I mean,
Cavill is next.
did you see that when we posted that one video about like 5 actors that we could
Yeah.
see as
Oh my God.
Oh my
the
God.
responses from the fans.
And we didn't even put the one that was now more recently rumored, which is the Robert Pattinson
Right.
one. We didn't even put that one on there. And imagine if we had put that one on there.
I think-
I got breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Guess what just broke? I said it was going to break, and it did. Guess what's happening at the Academy Awards?
What?
They're going to show
So you'll be able to figure out exactly when we're taping this episode of Movie Talk because it just broke via Variety. All Oscar categories to air live after Hollywood protest.
See,
Okay.
you know what? This guy should be fired right now. The guy in charge of the Academy Awards should be fired right now. The popular film category, this decision, like, stop messing with what we enjoy. And all this ratings talk needs to go the hell away, man. Just one night, show the Oscars. All of us who love film, let us do it, and let's move on. I don't know why this is such a big deal.
To read a little bit about what they're actually reporting here, following a Thursday night meeting with top cinematographers, Academy leadership, including President John Bailey and CEO Dawn Hudson, have pledged to air every awards category on the live show a week from Sunday. The decision comes after backlash from irate filmmakers and craftspeople who responded to the Academy's decision to relegate 4 awards categories to commercial breaks. So actually, we spoke about this on Movie Talk the other day, and I really want to get your take on it given this update here. Is there any solution here where we can have the best of both worlds, where we can honor what the Oscars stand for and mean, but also improve ratings on the telecast, or does one have to take priority?
Okay. It's tough because to me, the Oscars are a place for people to come and enjoy film and be reminded about why they fell in love with film. I don't know when this ratings issue started to happen. So you ask yourself, Perri, what you said, can we find the best of both worlds? I don't know if that's possible. I think it all depends on when you find the right host that brings people in here and gets them excited to see the Oscars again, like Billy Crystal did, even to a lesser extent Ellen DeGeneres did when she hosted. I enjoyed her hosting stint on the show. So I think it'll depend on the host, not necessarily the movies. I think it'll depend on the host. So when you find the right host that mixes with this, then maybe, Perri, we can get all the categories and bring the ratings in. But I will say one thing. Hey, John Bailey, with that statement you released saying, "Oh, I did this with the support of the guilds," what now? What now when the guilds came forward and said no and came back at you and made you screw? I mean, you've got to deliver an incredible mea culpa here.
What you got, Dennis?
I'm the opposite of Rocha. I don't think it's the host. I think it is the movies. I think it's the type of movies that you're nominating and you're bringing in so that people feel like they almost are rooting, like a sports team, right? You do a lot of Collider sports stuff.
Yes.
They're rooting for their movie and their thing. And then so when you have, let's say, and this has been a pattern, in the past where it's like a bunch of small movies, we'd joke about how like all 9 or 10 Best Picture nominees couldn't even equal like one blockbuster movie, in terms of box office sales. You need people to be interested. And I'm not saying we go with that stupid popular box office movie. Yeah. What I think they're doing right is diversifying the Academy, especially with younger people and them getting there, and just broadening the horizons and the genres that we can nominate instead of just the same type of kind of indie drama. I love indie dramas, don't get me wrong, but they don't all 9 of them, 10 of them have to be indie dramas that are maybe at most slightly committed. Can't we just nominate like a straight up comedy? Can we nominate
That's a great question for Perri.
We can, but I feel like we're not going to know if the change in the Academy and the more diverse Academy group we have now will ever change that, because they've had so many other changes, crazy changes happening around it. But I think that gets at the core of it. And I know people are going to, you're too optimistic, it's too idealistic, you value the Oscars too much. I know the whole speech, but I really do believe that if the priority is on what the Oscars mean and celebrating that and what just the film community and telling different stories means to the entire body that votes on the Academy Awards, I feel like if that is where the importance is placed over broadcast ratings, we'll wind up seeing them balancing out. If we have an entire community being super enthusiastic about the films that are nominated, and in particular, if we have the Academy naturally evolving, we're going to get more movies in the future like Black Panther. I mean, we've seen it in the past couple of years in terms of just, the award season noise that, let's say, Deadpool made, Logan Logan made, with Get Out getting nominated. Now this year, Black Panther becoming the first superhero movie to get a Best Picture nomination. We're seeing signs of this change that could go right into what you were saying about the different kinds of movies we could see naturally earning nominations all on their own without a popular film category. So I feel like if they stop messing with the actual ceremony in order to manufacture good ratings, they might actually naturally get them on their own while upholding the value of the Oscar statue.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I think film goers have to take a bit of responsibility here too, because there are certain types of movies that fit their tastes, and those are the movies that the studios are putting out. Those are the movies that are making money and doing what they're doing. So these independent dramas are being revered by critics like Perri and Scott Mance and Schneider on the FYC, but the more popular, where's our Godfathers? Where's the old, these old films that were popular and also artistically well done? Where are those films nowadays? It's really tough to find.
They're on
when
television.
you slide out of independent, right? When you slide out of the independent drama, they're tough to find. When you look at the popular box office hits, the artistic merits of them aren't as valuable overall as you see in the independent film dramas.
Oh boy. Oh boy, this conversation is just going to keep continuing over the next week too.
And then people were talking about, okay, before, right now they're saying they're going to air all of them, right? The ones that they hit, or, there was talk about, hey, why don't they just cut the kind of the shorts, like the live action short, the documentary short, and the what was the animated short, and put those. And those, look, I mean, it's fantastic they have those, but those are a little harder for the audience to get into because there's no access for. People are not going like to a theater watching these short live action films. They're just not available for people.
Well, there's that. Well, they are. They're in theaters now. I don't know how wide it goes, but you can actually buy a ticket to all the short films and see them in theaters right now. And I highly recommend it. I finally watched all the live action ones, and they're all 5 of them are great. But with the shorts thing, I think that was the only way for the Academy to get away with taking certain categories out of the live broadcast, because you can't just pluck out one short category, cinematography, editing, makeup, and hairstyling, but you can say the broadcast is for feature films, and this other, maybe let's say a live streaming ceremony, is for short films. I don't think they would have had the same uproar if that was the decision that was made.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the fundamentals of filmmaking, like what makes something a movie, cinematography and editing. There's like, how can you have those movies without them? So.
Exactly. Before we move on to one of our next big topics, we do need to touch on something that broke Friday morning, which was the announcement that Star Wars Episode 9 has wrapped filming. We got a really nice photo. I don't know if it's up there for you, but there's a photo of the cast, and really, there's nothing to dig into. I heard it in the booth. There's nothing to really dig into. I mean, like Rey is not facing the camera. Does that mean she's not going to make it through? We're not going to theorize any of that. But the one question leaning on this story that I do want to pose to you guys is the fact that filming principal photography, of course, there's still room in the schedule for reshoots because it's just a thing that happens. Principal photography is wrapped. Does that change your predictions at all regarding when we're going to get an Ep9 title and also a trailer?
No, I think it's all happening at Celebration. And it's this is all methodically how they're doing it to take control of everything around Episode 9 because of how Last Jedi was received. I think they're very ultra micro controlling this whole thing to the end. So yeah, Celebration is when it's going to drop. There's a lot to interpret in that picture. There's a lot. Like Kylo's not in it. Does he die? All the hugging out. Does that mean the First Order is finally gone? There's a lot we can do. No, there's nothing to get from that picture. It's just it's nice though to see the 3 principals. It did bring a little emotion out of me to see that, seeing them hugging, like on the journey they've been on and what they've had to endure separately from the fans on their social media and on the other side of things, getting a lot of love from people for doing these roles. So I'm sure that hug had a lot of meaning to it.
I mean, you can't speculate much from the picture, but it's just nice to know, okay, it's done. They're not going to be able to change too much in the direction of whatever they're going. I mean, because remember, they have to kind of answer the Princess General Leia question and all these different things. I think they probably had a lot of pressure on this movie, more so just because of some of the fan backlash with The Last Jedi, also Solo not performing as well as they had hoped. And so it's almost like not like the franchise is going to die, but what I'm saying is there's a lot more pressure on this film than they probably had thought when they first started shooting Force Awakens, right? Force Awakens are like, look, Star Wars is back. Okay, cool. It's a whole new story. And now they're just, getting a lot more people yapping in their ears.
Yeah, I'm putting my money right now on Celebration being the big announcement, and then they take that trailer and they attach it to a certain movie called Endgame, and then we'll see what happens after that. Our next story is yet another Disney story, and also get ready for a Rocha rant. I'm predicting that right now.
Okay.
We got a brand new Toy Story 4 clip. It aired on Good Morning America, and it focuses on Bo Peep, of course, voiced by Annie Potts, and she leads a rescue mission for a stray toy that's stuck in the rain. And this movie is due out June 21st, so very early for us to be getting a clip right now. Dennis, I'm going to let Rocha process this for a little bit, but how has the Toy Story 4 marketing campaign been doing in your eyes so far?
The problem I'm having, maybe it's just me. I think the Toy Story movies are fantastic. Every time I watch them, I enjoy them. I have a hard time remembering what happens in them. So I watch this clip. I'm like, is this something that happened in the third one or the second one? Like, I don't remember all the characters that are in there. Yeah, I know Buzz and I know Woody.
So did you realize this was a flashback?
Like, no, it said flashback. I'm like, is this something that we saw before? Like, so is this literally with the little Peep? I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a character that's in there, right? Like, my memory of these are just not that great, even though I enjoy the film. So it's one of those things where, with the marketing, right? Let's say this clip or the toy, the Super Bowl thing. It's like you're watching, you're like, okay, how different is this from what we've already gotten, right? Or are we just getting the same stuff? I know Toy Story is a beloved franchise and people will watch it regardless, but at some point it's like, what's new that we're going to see?
But your perspective is really interesting to bring up, because now I'm starting to think, did they ever even kind of tee up that clip during the Good Morning America presentation and explain any kind of background with what's happening?
No, they just said it was a new clip from the movie.
Because then I would think that the only way someone could figure out it's a flashback is if they look in the room, and I believe what's Andy's sister's name? Molly,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
That's how I knew that it was a flashback, because there's just a sign behind them that says Molly's room.
Oh, I thought it was a flashback because she's in her old Bo Peep outfit versus the new Bo Peep outfit they have her in. So to me, mentally,
admittedly, I did not process that one bit.
That's fair.
So Rocha's the opposite of me, where like I can't remember Bo Peep's in the movie, and you're like that little detail of her costume is a little different.
It's
this is kind of representing the problem with picking this particular clip, is that none of us quite are coming at it from the same angle.
Yeah, and also look, I don't know if I'm going to go on a rant on this one. I'll save it for later for the one I really want to go on. But like this, here's the deal. None of the marketing and none of the clips have got me excited about it. The animation style is so different from what we saw in the first three films. I don't know if you noticed that at all, Dennis, but like it bothers me. It doesn't feel like it's in the same universe, even though I know it is. Also, why do we have to take the shots? Like, Woody is there and he goes, oh, the name's your sheep. Oh, I didn't know they had names. You didn't ask. Yes, we get it. He didn't pay attention. He's a male. He didn't pay attention. Like, we don't have to do that with Woody, for frick's sake. Like, Woody just didn't know. He just didn't know. That's it. Why does it have to be a statement? Like, I get it that we're making Bo Peep more of a, like a stronger character to play out, a female empowerment and all that. I get it, but we don't have to step on Woody's neck for it. Woody symbolizes a really beautiful thing for a lot of people and a lot of kids growing up. Don't make him seem like some male misogynist or ignorant male. Like, I just didn't like that crack in that. Other than that, I thought that the animation style of this, I just didn't like. I'm saying you don't need to take shots at Woody. Woody's a cool kid.
I guess, but if they are putting Bo Peep front and center, and I'm just saying,
does that have to be expensive Woody, though?
I'm saying this based on one particular clip with one mention of that.
Yeah.
If we do see the full feature and it's something that we're constantly being reminded of over and over to the point that it makes you feel uncomfortable and disrespectful to Woody, maybe that is then when we have that kind of conversation. But I thought it played into the scene pretty well, especially because it reminded me a lot of the missions they go on in the original original Toy Story. And just this thought of going back in time, let's say, and realizing that Bo Peep was capable of so much more than we ever realized, and how well she works together with all of them. I don't know, that line in particular, and really everything she does in this scene, it did feel like it fit to me. It's just a matter of, I have yet to see anything from Toy Story 4 to at least start to convince me that we needed another chapter. And
Agreed, Perri.
I don't even think I quite know like what the story hook is at this point, which I would like.
At the carnival or something. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah, they're trying to save Buzz from the carnival and all that goes on there. But and I take your point, absolutely. If it becomes like then yes, you get the point. But my concern is that it's like there's no making Bo Peep front and center. You can do that without making it at the expense of everybody else in the Toy Story world, because they weren't writing they weren't the one writing the words. The writers were. Don't go after the characters. That's what concerns me. Don't denigrate the characters to put someone else front forward.
The only way you can express that in a movie is by characters realizing that they weren't paying attention to something before.
Yeah, I know. I guess
there's literally no other way to really address it unless we're seeing them process it themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we stand with the Toy Story 4 at this point. Before we move on to our next story, I need to remind you guys we have so much planned on Oscar night. Rocha, you're not going to be here. I keep forgetting that.
I'll be in jolly old England.
We will be thinking about you, but we're going to have a great time here. We have a whole bunch of programming, starting with an FYC pre-show. So it'll be me, it'll be Scott Mance and Jeff Snyder. We will give you our last-minute predictions. Then we will roll right into our live stream where you can watch the entire ceremony with us. And now, thankfully, we can actually stop during commercial breaks and tell you about all the categories that gave out their awards, because things have changed clearly. And then after that, after the entire ceremony, we're going to recap the whole thing, also with the FYC panel, give you our thoughts on the ceremony overall, and also who took home Oscar statues. All right, time for story number 3, and this is what I'm excited to talk about. Marc Webb signed on to direct a reimagined version of the animated movie Your Name for Paramount and Bad Robot. Eric Heiserer is writing the screenplay, which will now follow a young Native American woman living in a rural area and a young man from Chicago who discover they are magically and intermittently, and I can't say that word, intermittently swapping bodies. So, Dennis, we're always talking about whether or not we should Americanize any kind of foreign film out there, and I'm a little torn on this one because I love the original. I want to push more people to go and discover that. But at the same time, I kind of see why they're doing this, and I see the value in using this story format to explore other cultures. So how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I don't think I have an issue with this one. I mean, obviously, it's always a delicate tightrope that you have to do. This one seems more like it's an adaptation. They're taking something and then they're adapting it for the American audiences versus something like where Ghost in the Shell, it's like, well, it's still the exact same story, the same characters, the same everything, but they're just going to change the ethnicity of the main character. You know what I mean? So this seems more like, okay, we're taking the inspiration from this. So I don't have an issue with that. I haven't seen Your Name yet. I definitely want to see it.
Did for some reason.
No. I saw a couple of good anime on Netflix. They had In This Corner of the World, which I definitely recommend. Flavors of Youth, which is pretty good. But yeah, I don't think Your Name is available on any streaming service, or at least any streaming service that I subscribe to, and I subscribe to quite a bit. So
I can't remember where
did you see it?
How I watched it, but I did see it, and I think it's excellent. And part of me is hoping that this news at least drives people to discover the original film. But given what happens in that story, I think just that idea of two people being connected in that way and just exploring who they are, and it's also it's got a coming of age vibe to it. I think that could be a really great way to not just have one reimagined version, but if this one does well, then we could have even more, exploring all different, races and cultures, you name it. I mean, it's such an easy way to explore the idea of, learn about someone who is different from you. So that's part of the reason why I'm so drawn to this. And and also because I like Marc Webb as a filmmaker. So, Rocha, what do you think about Webb in particular directing this?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, our last visit with Marc Webb, last couple of visits with Marc Webb was a small independent film, Gifted, with Chris Pine and Jenny Slate. And then also Amazing Spider-Man 2, which wasn't so well received. I liked the first Amazing Spider-Man, but 500 Days of Summer is his calling card for me in my mind. I really love that film. It's one that I still come back to and enjoy thoroughly with his direction. And he also interestingly jumps time in that movie. So I know this isn't a jump time movie, but it's jump bodies movie. So there's something here to play with. It's interesting, the log line you hear for this remake, a Native American woman who's living in a rural area versus a guy in Chicago, how they switch bodies. I imagine that opens the door to some understanding, not just of what it's like to switch bodies gender, but also switch bodies culture,
Yes.
Native American versus what I imagine is white American, what that culture swap is like as well. So look, Marc Webb is an adept director. I'm sure there'll be somewhat of a romantic angle with this possibly played into. Well, as I said, in 500 Days of Summer, he does a nice job, but that's certainly in the Spider-Man movies with Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield as well. So I have a lot of faith in Marc Webb. Let's see what he does with this. And it's difficult to adapt an anime into a live-action film and make that swap. So we'll see what he can do. I mean, Death Note really hit like this, so like you hope
Death
that doesn't
Note's
slip into the situation.
a completely different story, and it's like
Sure,
you know,
yes,
it's obviously
but it's
got
anime
this
transferred, yeah.
supernatural quality in a way that, like, you know, like it manifests in something that's completely out of this world. And I know this has supernatural elements too with the body swap part, but I mean, other than the fact that you have someone waking up in someone else's body, I feel like that's still a very natural, easy thing to be able to portray in live action form. And the gender swapping element of it is very, very funny in the original. So I hope they get a little bold with that and play with it again, because I got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more to hit today. I already see you lighting up over there.
What, me?
This one is a new trailer for a Lionsgate movie called Long Shot, and it is from director Jonathan Levine, and it follows the unlikely romance between a hard-hitting political writer played by Seth Rogen, who reunites with his first crush, who also happens to be the current U.S. Secretary of State played by Charlize Theron. This one opens May 3rd. All right, go for it. I don't have a pitch question for you or anything. Just go.
I watched this trailer and I was like upset this morning. I almost tweeted about it afterwards because, look, I get it. Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron, it should work. But that first joke, oh, you're secretary of what? All the states? You're such a dummy. You don't know this. What the hell are you talking about? And then you go forward and can we once and for all in 2019 kill this male fantasy of the slovenly writer dude getting the hot, beautiful, accomplished, attractive, intelligent woman like Charlize Theron? Ridiculous. And nothing about Seth Rogen's face says hard-hitting at all as a political writer. He's wearing clothes from the 90s, for God's sakes, with those luminescent hats and ridiculous. And then what woman who is a career professional in politics as a Secretary of State is going to go off and get drunk and buck wild on video and get caught so she can ruin her chances to be president? For God's, just all of this is stupid as hell. I know that a woman and a male writer wrote this, but to me, this looks like dumb comedy on so many dumb levels that we've seen a million times. Nothing new here, nothing nuanced here. And I really was hoping for something better from Charlize, who I love to pieces, and Seth, who I love separately to pieces as well with a lot of his work. So overall, I just thought this trailer hit all the wrong notes for 2019.
I don't think I had as extreme of a reaction to it. The only thing that made me laugh out loud, though, was the bit with Danny DeVito.
Oh, that was the funniest part.
Oh, no, that was funny.
That I laughed
that's
out loud.
Diane
but
Raphael, who's funny, yeah.
I did feel the same way as you regarding the political nature of it and her job as Secretary of State. And I know when you watch a movie, sometimes you got to throw like the truth of the matter out the window and just go along for the ride. But I guess given our current political climate, all I kept thinking about was all the repercussions from her behavior and how wrong it would be. But I think I would have been an easier sell with all that stuff had more of the trailer been funny. And, you know, other than that one moment, I think I was fine. You know, I wasn't hating on it, but it wasn't really cracking me up. Dennis, where do you fall on this?
For me, like I half agree with Rocha. So I agree that the part where you have the kind of sloppy, not as attractive male, always getting the most beautiful, most accomplished girl. That thing, the trailer wise, I feel like is wasn't that great other than the Danny DeVito joke. But my only hope is, one, do we know, is this rated R or not?
I would
imagine so.
maybe assume so.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. So there's two things. Well, if it is rated R, then I'm like, okay, maybe there's a lot better jokes that are being hidden away because it's rated R.
Sure.
And then two, it's Jonathan Levine who did 50-50 and The Night Before, which I like those both movies.
Night Before is great.
Yeah, so I like both of those movies a lot. So I'm just hoping that, okay, maybe there's something more to this than what we're seeing in this trailer.
But look, even the Night Before, like the Lizzie Kaplan relationship with Joseph Gordon-Levitt is fantastic, and I don't want to spoil too much about it, but she doesn't let herself get put in this situation by him simply because he's got some fantasy to live out. She calls him out on it. You don't see any of that in this trailer, and that's what frustrates me overall. She doesn't remember this guy that she dated back then, and all of it just puts all the onus on Charlize Theron, and I was just frustrated by it because I want to see better comedy that it doesn't hit the same notes over and over, the same cliches and tropes that we've seen.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, good for you. Let it all out.
I'm just mad about it.
Yeah,
I want something better. I want something better. If we're changing, let's change. If we're changing, let's change. That's all I'm saying.
Who knows? We're definitely going to get another trailer before release, so maybe that will pleasantly surprise you. We shall see. That's it. Those are all of our news stories for today, but we still are going to take some Twitter questions that we had banked, so stay tuned for that. First, we got to recap everything that you're going to get to see on Collider when we are back in studio on Tuesday, and of course, that's starting with Collider Live at 10 a.m. PT. We also have a live edition of For Your Consideration coming your way as well, and we are down to the wire now. We are making our final predictions, so if you need any tips for those Oscar polls, go tune in to FYC. We also have Collider Sports Time, and I think you have something super cool planned, right?
Yeah. For Monday, we did drop. If you're watching this today, we had a new Collider Sports Time drop earlier today. We talked some of the weekend stories, and we had Jay Washington on as our guest with me and Matt Nost. But our biggest news is that we had Lennox Lewis in studio, dropped the interview with him on Friday, former undisputed world champion of heavyweight division, a former 3-time champion, talked about all kinds of stuff, fighting Mike Tyson, how he would fight Floyd Mayweather one-handed, and what it was like for him in the ring and the respect he's looking for now post his fight career in the analyst game. So a lot of great stuff, really jovial guy, 45 minutes, fun talk. And if you haven't seen the VR thing, we had him fight the Creed VR as well on the Collider game.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that. I have
Catch
to go
'em
watch
all.
that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, tomorrow we also have a brand new episode of Collider Movie Talk for you live at 4 p.m. PT, so tune in for that. Now we've got some Twitter questions. I've got 3 of them here, and the first one is from Sebastian70707, and he wants to know, would it be smart to put Captain Marvel in an Avengers Endgame trailer before her solo movie comes out to get people to her movie?
No.
Wait, what was that quick? To put Captain Marvel.
Sebastian is suggesting that we see another Endgame trailer with Captain Marvel in it.
Oh, no. I want to see, because the Captain Marvel movie is, despite Kevin Feige and the rest of the Marvel team always saying, oh, we're not doing origin stories anymore. This is still an origin. Of
course it is.
It's an origin story. You need to introduce characters people are not familiar with. It's not Spider-Man or Batman or Superman. So anyways, most of that movie is going to be that. They're going to have some slight connection at the very end, whether it's the very end of the movie or the post-credit scene, to Avengers Endgame. But I don't want to see her come back until I watch that movie. But I'm sitting there, and it's on the big screen, and she appears. Because then, if the Captain Marvel movie is good, then people are going to be so hyped when she pops on screen. I want to see that pop when it's during the movie versus seeing it in a trailer. I think it's going to ruin it. Like, how does she get there, or how do they meet? Who does she meet with? Right. I don't want to see anything about her in the marketing.
So no was obviously my knee-jerk reaction to this too. Her movie is coming first. We need to see her story before we can see her future. But then I started to think about it, and we know she's involved in some capacity anyway because of the beeper. So I don't think that we should see a trailer where she is actually taking part in anything, but I don't think it could hurt to allude to her involvement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the movie's going to make the money. We don't need it for Avengers Endgame. And Captain Marvel is going to be just fine. It's already projected, 100 to 160 is like that's the numbers they're dancing with. It's going to be fine. It does not need to be tied to Endgame. You know why? Because everybody who knows about Endgame knows she's she's attached to Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, it's already
not gonna
attached.
push
It's already attached with Infinity War. That was the
Exactly.
best commercial you could make for
Right.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it was the best trailer they had.
Yeah, you don't need anything else.
And
That's
after
probably true.
okay, and after the movie comes out, after the movie comes out, add her to all the trailers you want for Endgame.
Well, that's probably the way to do it,
Yes.
actually, to keep the momentum going.
Exactly.
Because, however many weeks after they deem Captain Marvel, part of the spoiler conversation, I mean, maybe that is the time to I guess the window would be too close, though, because when would that actually lift? Let's say at the very beginning of April, they
Probably.
start sprinkling her in the advertising campaign for Endgame. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people at that point are going to have to know her story to get ready for Endgame. So who knows? It's probably not going to happen. All right. Next question is from good old Rocky Drago, and now he wants to know which of Sony's 2019 franchise relaunches has more pressure to deliver against early negative buzz. Is it Men in Black or Charlie's Angels?
Who's got negative buzz for either one of those?
I don't know if Charlie's Angels has any negative buzz, but given the fact that we've seen some stuff from Men in Black, I don't necessarily know if I don't know if the general conversation is people foaming at the mouth for a new Men in Black movie.
No, but I don't think they were before. I mean, I know I wasn't, but I did enjoy that trailer. So it actually did its job to me, where it's like, okay, at least I can see something new and different in this version, because I didn't want to see a sequel. I didn't really care. But, I enjoyed the first movie, and then, then it kind of fell off on the franchise. So it wasn't like, oh man, we need that Men in Black sequel. And now they're doing this international one. It's fine. I don't know. I don't know why people are negative about either one, because Charlie Angel hasn't had a trailer yet, right?
No.
Who's in Charlie's Angels, Perry? Is it
Charlie's Angels is Kristen Stewart.
Okay.
I think Naomi Scott, and then Ella Balinska. I think
Okay, so
her name
you're
is.
talking about actors that aren't really in the hardcore mainstream, besides Kristen Stewart, obviously. So I think people are going to give that a little more patience to see what they come up with there. It's a new approach to it, and it's been a while since Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz and Lucy Liu. So let's see what they can do. I think what we've seen already from Men in Black is a positive new direction to take it in, with the camaraderie of Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, Valkyrie, and Thor coming together again. That's going to sell it all right there. So your question, Drago, which one has negative? Which one
Has more pressure?
Yeah, I would say maybe Men in Black, because people want to take this in a new direction. I think there's not a lot of pressure on Charlie's Angels.
With taking the negative out of the conversation and just going with the pressure idea, I think the pressure is definitely more so on Men in Black, just because of the nature of that movie. It likely cost a lot more to make than what Charlie's Angels, I think, will cost. But yeah, it's hard to say Charlie's Angels has negative buzz when we haven't really seen anything, which is why I thought it was kind of okay to say it about Men in Black, just because now that I've seen the trailer. So when they first announced that it was Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, my excitement went through the roof. All of a sudden, I wanted another Men in Black movie that I never knew I wanted. And then I can't say the trailer was terrible for me, but it didn't really.
Oh, wow.
I do think that my excitement for the movie dipped because the trailer didn't match the excitement of the casting
That's
announcement. So I think that one has the steeper hill to climb at this point.
Wasn't there a Charlie's Angels TV show that failed a
Yeah,
few years
with
back? The girl from
was that
Friday
Minka
Night
Kelly?
Lights. Yeah,
yeah,
Minka Kelly.
yeah.
Oh, was she in that, Minka?
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't even remember that.
I don't even think it made a whole full season.
I
it
don't
was like
think
half
so
a season
either.
or something like that.
I
but
barely remember that at this point.
It's like the Adrian Palicki Wonder Woman pilot. Yeah. You're like, oh.
Aw, that's sad.
I'm just being the Friday Night Lights type, the connection, yeah.
Well, Friday Night Lights will live on forever. I love that series, and I love that movie, and I will watch it over and over.
oh yeah, it's a fantastic series. It's a
Clear
definite
hearts, open minds can't lose.
Oh no.
Clear eyes,
Clear eyes,
full
full
of
hearts.
hearts. You
Eyes,
have not
Full
seen
Hearts
this
Can't
show?
Lose.
Trust me, you will like the show.
You've never seen Friday Night
You
Lights?
watch the show, because the problem with that
Rocha.
show, the problem with the show is, and I had the same way. It's when I saw it, I was like, "Is this a CW show? Like, is this like a one of those?" But it's actually a much more mature, telling of teenagers and how they're like growing into adults, but
I
they're
don't
not
like
quite
your
there yet.
expressions.
Well,
right
because
now.
before my colleagues ran away with their fake news, I've seen a season and a half. I haven't finished it yet. I stopped halfway through the second season because that storyline
How
with the
long
running
ago
back.
was this?
The running back bothered me. Last year.
Oh, okay.
And not 2018. I guess 2017. So that is right about where I stopped. But I made it that first season.
The second season is
I hated Riggins in that first season so much.
But his character changes.
He's a jerk.
Yeah, but watch it more and you'll see that his character changes.
All right, that's
the second season is a little less quality, but then the third season, and then Michael B. Jordan comes in in the future season.
Well, it's like Battlestar. I got a season and a half through that. And Breaking Bad, I've only finished one season of Breaking Bad.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I've got to make some. I got a holiday weekend coming up, so I've got stuff to do.
You got to catch up
but you got a
fast
plane
if
ride.
you- if you
How
wanna
long is the plane ride to England?
It ain't 4 seasons long, that's for sure.
Well, you can pick one of these series
Sure.
and start
I will.
catching
You've
up.
also got to catch up for the new movie because remember last year news broke that David Gordon Green is directing a new Friday Night Lights.
That's
so who knows?
I'll catch
Who
up.
knows? Maybe we'll get more of it soon. One more Twitter question and then we're going to sign off for the day. This one is from Lil Miss Shortcake and she's asking, how much of Collider Movie Talk do you prepare for and how do you ad-lib? You guys love the new time. I don't know.
well,
at the same time.
I prepare as much as I can for it, but I also don't like to over prepare so that I can wing it and just talk. Because Perri and Marc Ellis have a great tradition of like asking these extra questions attached to these stories that make it fun for you to improv and ad lib and speak off the cuff about answering those questions. So I enjoy doing that, staying open, still prepared, but staying open for changes.
I mean, I prepare mostly for the ones that I'm less familiar about.
Oh, yeah,
like
sure.
if it's a project I don't know much about or some directors or writers that I'm not familiar with and seeing their back history and say, okay, they did this, they did that. That's usually, but if it's something I'm like, okay, I know about this, I can talk about whatever, especially the superheroes and Star Wars and that kind of stuff.
This last week has been an interesting experiment with my show notes because I got so used to just writing them for Ellis and letting him do his thing with them. And it's like I started out writing out the notes as I would say it, as I would read it. But then I've caught myself for most of the topics just being like, oh, like I remember it and just speaking about it. So I don't know. I think I've been leaning on the ad lib way more than I imagined that I would.
I remember early on in the AMC movie talk days, like people would say stuff like, especially in the comments, like, oh, I don't like this guy, his character, or like they thought like people had like script, you know what I mean? Like had scripts or something like talking point, like things that like, oh, okay, Rocha in this episode, he's going to rant about, you know what I mean? And like we give Rocha the thing, okay, you're going to rant about this, and then Perri, you're going to talk nice, positive about this, and you know what I mean? Like,
This actually sounds very accurate the way you're describing it.
Well, I think what we all do well is we have our own ability to analytically think, and we have these conversations off camera as well. So we just bring our conversations on camera with a little bit more research behind what we do. And so that's basically how most of us prepare for this.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. So I hope that gives you a little extra insight into what goes on behind the scenes at Collider Movie Talk. But that is a wrap on this edition of the show. A huge thank you to all of you guys out there for joining us. Don't forget to like and share the episode and tell everybody you know about the episode in podcast form as well on the Movie Talk feed. Rocha, Dennis, thank you so much for joining us on your day off / your Friday. Adam Smith in the booth, thank you for everything as always. And to all of you out there, enjoy the rest of your day if you have the day off, and tune in tomorrow 4 p.m. PT for a live episode of Collider Movie Talk.